Alan Baker har tidligere vært ambassadør for Israel i Kanada. I tillegg har han fungert som juridisk rådgiver for det israelske utenriksdepartementet. Han deltok i forhandlingene under Oslo-prosessen her i Norge. I dag opplever han at Norge er med og dolker Israel i ryggen, blant annet ved å oppgradere PLOs representasjon til Norge til ambassadestatus. Han påpeker også at israelske bosetninger i Judea og Samaria ikke er ulovlige. Tvert imot har Palestina-araberne i Oslo-avtalen godkjent at israelerne bygger det de ønsker i de områdene som er under israelsk kontroll. Vi har møtt mannen Alan Baker.
As part of our cooperation with the Palestinian Authority, we have upgraded the Palestinian mission here in Oslo to be a full-fledged embassy. So the Palestinian representative who is standing here is now the full-fledged ambassador of the Palestinian Authority to Oslo.
Welcome to this program, Alan Baker.
Thank you very much.
What is your response to the announcement made by the Foreign Minister of Norway on the 15th of December 2010 that the mission from the PA mission in Oslo is upgraded to a full-fledged embassy?
Well, it's sad. I was very disappointed personally, but also as an Israeli. We all know that Norway was a very active player in the negotiation process. I myself took part of the negotiations in Oslo, and Norway is a signatory to the interim agreement. It's signed as witness together with the presidents of the US and the King of Jordan and the president of Russia and a representative of the EU and the UN. Norway is signed there, and so Norway knows very well that agreement prevents the Palestinians from acting as a state until the negotiations are completed, and they're not supposed to go and lobby to foreign governments to ask them for recognition of borders or upgrading their status until this is something that's negotiated between the Palestinians and the Israelis. So I'm sad, and I feel that to a certain extent the Norwegians have stabbed us in the back, because the Norwegians are the part of the family in which the agreements were originally negotiated, and to do something which violates basically the terms of the agreement that Norway have witnessed, I think is a stab in the back for the process and for Israel, and it doesn't help. It's not helping. It's not going to bring peace any quicker by doing what they're doing.
How does it affect the situation and the process, actually?
Well, what it does is it gives the Palestinians some type of support and confirmation for trying to bypass the process, not to negotiate with Israel, but to get international pressure on Israel to recognize a state of Palestine within 1967 borders. Now, Israel has already agreed to the idea of a state, a Palestinian state. This is something that we've agreed to. The only question that is still open is the mutual borders. Now, this is something that only Israel and the Palestinians can negotiate. It can't be imposed. And this is why this whole the policy of the Palestinian Prime Minister Salim Fayyad to go behind Israel's back, to go to Argentina and Chile and Bolivia and Uruguay and Mexico and to Norway to try and get them to recognize or to upgrade the Palestinians is going behind the back of the negotiations, which is it's contrary to the idea of a negotiated solution, and it doesn't mean anything legally, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything politically, because Israel won't agree to this, and whatever Israel will agree to will be through negotiation, and this is what we're waiting to do with the Palestinians.
Is there a campaign going on regarding recognition of a Palestinian state?
Absolutely. The only thing that the Palestinian president and the Palestinian prime minister, instead of concentrating on negotiating with Israel, they're running around the world trying to persuade countries to recognize a Palestinian state in the borders of 1967. Now, you know, this is completely against what they've agreed to and committed themselves to in the agreements with Israel that were made with Norwegian participation. Any questions, any issues regarding the final status of the territory are supposed to be negotiated with Israel. And they can't go and persuade governments to recognize a state within certain borders that haven't been agreed upon between the Palestinians and Israel. It doesn't mean anything. It's, you know, it's like I don't know. It's publicity and it's politics, but it doesn't have any legal strength or legal power, and it certainly doesn't bind Israel, and it doesn't bind the United States, and it doesn't bind anyone else.
What you need under international law to claim a statehood?
Well, you need a defined territory, you need a language, and you need a people that has the structures, the governmental structures that enable it to carry out its international obligations.
Does this campaign from the Palestinian leadership express a partner that wish peace?
Well, this is a problem. This is part of my own personal problem, because I'm seeing the people that I was negotiating with going behind the back of the negotiation. So it says something about their credibility. Can I now come back and negotiate with these people who are doing things that they've promised not to do? It talks about credibility and reliability. And so it makes it very difficult. You know, everybody regards Prime Minister Salam Fayyad as a serious person, somebody who can be negotiated with. But when we see him running around the world trying to persuade governments to do something which has no meaning, it's purely a public relations stunt, then it talks about the credibility. And when we come back to negotiations, and presumably we will come back to negotiations at some stage, then you know, we'll be in a difficult position, because we'll ask ourselves, well, okay, is it worth what we're negotiating about? Because if they'll so easily violate commitments, so what does this mean? Will we, you know, once we withdraw from territory, or once we make commitments on security issues and water and things like that, will they honor these commitments or not, if they don't honor commitments that already exist?
Since you was involved in the Oslo process, what has the outcome of the Oslo process been?
Look, I'm an optimist. We worked very hard for many years, together with Norway and together with the US, but mostly Israelis and Palestinians who got to know each other. We lived in the same hotels. We went jogging together. We swam in the swimming pools together. We sat in the bar singing together. We established a good relationship. And we worked very hard for a few years, and we negotiated 4 or 5 very serious agreements. And these agreements are still valid. They're still there. They're the mother. In actual fact, Israel and the Palestinian Authority are the mother and father of these agreements. And because of these agreements, the Palestinian Authority exists. And the president of the Palestinian Authority and the prime minister, you know, their source of authority is in these agreements. So these agreements are very important. The Oslo process is still the Oslo process. It's still going on. At the moment, there's no active negotiation. It's been frozen by the Palestinians because they've raised this issue of settlements, which again is a purely false issue, because it's an issue that Israel has undertaken to negotiate with the Palestinians. So why are they now taking it and holding it up as a reason for stopping all negotiations until Israel freezes the settlements? Again, it's something that is going behind the agreements. So the Oslo process is still a very alive process and a very important process and a fundamental component of the process for reaching peace in the Middle East.
Does the UN Resolution 242 demand Israel to leave the territories of Judea, Samaria, the so-called West Bank?
242 says that Israel has to withdraw from territories, not all the territories, not the territories, to agreed upon defensible, recognized boundaries. Which means that these lines have to be negotiated. It's not the 1967 lines, and there are no 1967 borders. The situation in 1967 was that there were ceasefire lines and armistice lines. And the Security Council hasn't asked Israel to withdraw to these lines. We have to negotiate borders with all our neighbors, and that's what we did with Jordan, and that's what we did with Egypt. And that's what we have to do with Lebanon, and that's what we have to do with the Palestinians.